Welcome to the Volcaster Podcast, episode 38. Our guest today is David Dodson. For those people who are here in SoCal in the mid-90s and a little bit beyond that, probably know that name, but like if you're me, you've only seen the guy around, but don't know a whole heck of a lot about him, except for he seems to be a bit of a tuner extraordinaire. Really looking forward to bringing him on and chatting with him a little bit and finding out what all went down in his racing career, because I only see him turning spanners these days, and see what's going on with that. But before that, obviously, let's knock out some current events here, Dirk. We just recorded last week with Paul Bonilla, right? So we don't have a whole heck of a lot that
Not much
happened.
has changed in a week.
Yeah, and actually, it was a, quote, off weekend for us last weekend. I was actually here hanging out with David. We were doing
sounds like you got some do some testing.
Yeah, a little test and tune, getting ready for Rock Vegas and whatnot. And so that was a good time hanging out with him for first time, really. And you were sipping Mai Tais or something like that, right? Doing a little relaxing.
Had a little bachelor party down in San Diego. That was kind of cool.
Our good buddy T.A. Law.
With 3 previous guests as well.
Oh, really?
Casey Cook, Cameron Jocelyn, Darren Mercer. And there was about a good hour conversation one night when we were probably drinking a little bit too much. Like, man, that was so cool. We're all guests on this show, blah, blah, blah. So giving themselves a little bit more credit than they deserve. But yeah,
Nice.
No, it was
Giving
a good
us
time.
too much credit too, I think.
Yeah, no, it was fun though, seeing everybody.
That's awesome. And I think that's when you get a chance to kind of chill out for a second, right? We talked about with the Paul deal, right? As we had just got done doing 2 big events back to back, and then to have a bit of an off weekend to actually hit the reset button,
Get things back in order.
Yeah, soak it back up a little bit. It is nice. As we, this is out. This will be out in the when is this going to go out? I didn't even talk about what day it was. It is the 23rd, I believe.
Today is
August 23rd.
Oh, okay.
Would you?
You
did drink too much. You have no idea where you are right now. So this is the Volcaster Podcast. And
I go off of events, not dates. I just know what next weekend is. That's all it is.
The end of the day, we're getting closer to the big races at the end, right? The Rock Vegas, the Supernats, and Supernats now being in December, it's a little bit further out, but we're starting to think about that, carrot at the end of the season a little bit. And if you're not going for a championship anymore, or if you were, the Scusa Pro Tour was the thing you were going for, that's all done and dusted. Now it's about, all right, well, I got to go for the other big thing, besides the national championship. And it's just that kind of time of year, and you can kind of tell there's a bit of a different vibe sometimes when we get this deep. Either people are going for their club championship or regional championship, or the eyes have already moved on, like mine have a long time ago, to the race at the end of the year.
Yours moved on back in, I don't know, March.
Challenge is done? Yeah, so am I.
Exactly.
But no, it's gonna be interesting to see how the rest of the year goes, as far as everybody's individual goals and things like that. But I'll be curious to see how we get 2 more big Vegas races again, and how everybody kind of comes together for those things.
I'm just excited for Rock the Rio. Matt has a ticket, so he's got to race against you.
Yes, yeah, Rock Vegas.
Rock Vegas.
Yeah, not at
sorry.
Rio. But
in my head, I said Vegas. Out came Rio.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked. I'm stoked to go against old Matty after he picked off the summer shootout.
Yeah, I think that 100cc Masters is actually going to be a lot of fun to watch there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you what, like I said, working with David this weekend, you start getting a little bit of a different thought process about preparation, getting things ready to go. He's pretty meticulous. We'll talk to him a little bit about that in a little bit, but
I never would have thought to tap my wheels. He's like, I'm double checking everything.
Yeah, I wouldn't thought about turning a wrench
if
I could help it. But he was a badass do it. And speaking of badassery and just making things happen, I think instead of us jibber jabbing like we like to do here in the current events, let's get the man on the show himself. So come on over, David Dodson. David Dodson, thanks for coming on over here, hanging out with us on a Monday. What we always start out with the show is find out what people do for a 9 to 5 that actually lets them come out here and play with us for an afternoon. So what is it that you do?
Yeah, so thanks guys for having me. So what do? I basically open doors for people.
Which hotel?
I turn on lights. So yeah, I'm a real estate agent for Keller Williams in Riverside.
Nice.
How long have you been doing that?
Yeah, for 3 years. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I probably should have made the switch from motorsports to real estate years ago, but you know, there's no regrets there. I mean, the things that I've learned in motorsports and in karting just only helped, I think, my personal relation skills
Right.
and people skills.
Yeah, for sure.
That some people, when they get into real estate, they have like maybe a sales background, but they don't have that interpersonal skill relationship kind of building.
Right.
Just being able to talk to people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just and at the end of the day, you're just. I mean, I'd imagine I've just seen on TV and other stuff like that, but you're just casually walking through explaining the house.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science, but you just got to be confident with what
Man,
you're saying.
Right.
You're an
I'm
expert
guessing.
over here. Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah. Are you
No.
in
It
real
is.
estate already?
But
How did you get into? I mean, you said you did it for 3 years. Before we talk about what you did before that, how did you get into it? Why did you decide I'm going to do real estate? Since it's pretty fresh.
yeah, well, not a lot of people know this, but my dad actually, dabbled in. He got his license and dabbled in it for about a year, and
Oh,
then he
okay.
was like, "Yeah, I'm done." And then went back to karting and running his own business and doing the shop thing and all that.
Okay.
So you kind
so-
of already had it in the background.
It
there a
was
little
kind
bit?
of in the back of my mind, but my idea of a real estate agent was like a guy with a suit that's 3 sizes too big and the used cars kind of salesman and
Yeah.
mentality. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
The back of the Yellow Pages lawyer.
Exactly. Yeah. And when I moved after college, when I moved to Indianapolis, I met a lot of people that were involved in IndyCar and motorsports that were agents or brokers or owned 3 or 4 houses. And that kind of got the conversation started more and more about, yeah, if you're open, if you're entrepreneurial, if you know sales, get your license. It's easy to do, and try it out. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
So you started doing that thing, and has it been going pretty good for you here? 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, 2020 was a little off, but
Something going on in 2020 that made it
Yeah.
a little challenging.
a lot of Corona beer. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's the market obviously is hot everywhere now. Yeah, I'm busy. I have a couple buyers I'm working with now, and then a couple sellers that'll come on the market here next month. So
We've heard of some people getting into the real estate thing, and the thought process is that's maybe the low-hanging fruit, if you will, or maybe the easiest way to try to make a good amount of money in a fairly short period of time. Is that the truth there, and is that kind of what you see also drives people, and did that drive you as well?
yeah, I mean, obviously I wanted to look for a career that can kind of take me to like my next stage in life, not be so travel dominant. Racing obviously is very travel dominant.
Right.
Now that I'm in a relationship and I'm getting older, I wanted something a little more stable.
Right.
Right,
A
yeah.
little bit long-term
Yeah,
investment
but
in
don't get me
yourself.
wrong. I mean, I love getting dirty and dirt under the fingernails kind of thing, being at the track. But
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a new stage for me.
Well,
Nice.
since it is a new thing, and maybe we can just go right into it, because I mean, talking about being in motorsports and just making the switch currently, how did you get into motorsports in the first place? Since it sounds like, I mean, it's been most of your life up to this point.
It's been my whole life. So I'm 3rd generation. So my grandfather raced. I mean, he would race against Duffy and all the
gotcha.
legends. And my dad raced, and then as soon as I got of age, and they're like, here's a go-kart.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
What we do in this family.
Yeah. So my grandfather predominantly they were like road racers. So they did enduros at Willow Springs predominantly. And their class was open. So I think they had a minimum weight, but then whatever you can think of for the engine
Really?
was
Game on,
Game
yeah.
on. Yeah.
What years was that?
Early to mid 60s.
God, they got into the endurance stuff pretty quick. And it was
Yeah.
the same. Was it the same? Were they already doing the lay down stuff back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't. I think their wheelbases got a little bit longer because some of the early photos you see their knees kind of kicked up.
Yeah.
And then they this full on lengthened the cart.
Gotcha.
And added the porch. So
Right.
you were
Okay.
fully extended.
Yeah.
And so my grandfather actually has a national championship trophy that's not a Duffy. It would be a Duffy now,
Right.
but it was back
Before
before
that.
Duffy when he was racing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, still has it.
That's
it's
cool.
about 4 feet. Yeah, it is pretty cool.
That's neat.
And then so then my dad got involved, obviously, and they were just heavy on just modifying the motors. Just the more ports, the better. The more carburetors, the better. Kind of developing the slippy pipe, so the pipe that's adjustable by a hand trigger.
Going back to that, how did are you guys all from SoCal, and does that it was kind of how did you guys get into the Dodsons? How did the Dodsons get into karting in the first place? Because obviously bit you guys pretty hard.
Oh yeah. I think so. The story was like a migration from Florida to California.
Okay.
My grandfather was in the military in like World War II, the motor pool. Got out of that, started doing auto body stuff. Then that progressed into like mini bikes and go-karts, and then actually having a shop. Then they moved that shop, to California, to Colton, California.
Okay.
So the Inland Empire. And then it migrated to San Bernardino and was there, ever since.
And
Oh, wow.
What was that company called?
Dodson Engineering.
Dodson Engineering.
Yeah.
And that
Which
was
is kind of funny because no one had an engineering degree, but it sounded good.
They didn't know any better.
No, yeah,
these Dodson guys, man. They know things.
Yeah.
It's in the name.
exactly.
So he starts this company after World War II. He starts this company, is kind of hanging out with the bikes and then the carts and whatnot. And that's obviously right as that stuff starts rocking and rolling.
Oh, yeah.
But that
Yeah.
started in Florida 1st.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
I assume are they racing at like Daytona and stuff like that back then,
I
or
don't-
was there a bunch of racing going on before he moves out this way?
It was before then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they actually did races at Daytona back then. And then once they got to California, I mean that was the hub of the hot rod culture. And then when go-karts really were taking off,
Right.
and people were buying them for recreation, for racing, you name it, and they would just set up tracks and parking lots.
Yeah.
Just a couple hay bales and a flag guy, and like let's go.
That was it. Yeah.
When I was going to ask, I mean, with it being San Bernardino, it's awfully convenient with its proximity to Adams Motorsports Park.
Right.
Was Adams around yet at that point when he moved?
Yes.
Was? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Did that have anything to do with the placement of this particular?
I don't know. That's a
No?
good question. Yeah, I don't know if it did, but yeah, my family knows probably 80% of the Adamses.
Yeah.
You know,
wow.
I mean, they're a huge family too.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was my first track. I remember, oh my gosh, yeah, like they had concrete steps, and that was their grandstands back in the day. And I remember when I was like 7, and I had all this energy to burn, I would sweep the steps for Thelma, who kind of ran the snack bar, and she would give me this, cup of like fruit juice that's frozen, with a
Okay.
popsicle stick out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I remember those.
yeah, it'd be the awesomest thing ever.
Yeah.
Back in the day when you drank from the hose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's very convenient.
Yeah, yeah.
Comes right out of the house.
Uh-huh.
Perfect. So your grandpa starts Dodson Engineering, ends up in San Bernardino, obviously Adams Motorsports Park, minutes away, and they're racing there. I've always wanted to ask something that I never have. When you're born into a scenario where karting or racing in general is part of the game, right? Grandpa did it, Dad doing it, or they're all doing it, and you're predisposed to doing it. Like you don't have a choice. Are you also looked at like, well, you have to be good? Is that one of those things? Like right out, was there any pressure as a kid right when you started out to you're going to go do this and you're going to be good, or were you just like, no, I want to do this anyway, no matter what?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there was some pressure there, but from what I remember back in the day when I was a junior, I think most people's expectation was, since my dad had a shop that predominantly focused on engine rebuilding, and Yamahas and all that, it was like, okay, well, he has the best motor ever on the
Right.
the planet, and they've been on the dyno since 4 a.m. kind of thing.
Yeah.
So people just automatically assumed that, okay, well, he's obviously cheating on the motor side. That's why he's so fast. But
I would assume that Jesus Vasquez Jr., like I know that people probably think that, oh, he's got, the cat's meow when it comes to engines. But
Jesus just did a post recently on that
Yes, he did.
subject, saying this is all for sale. Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
Not hiding anything.
And I think that's just that, like you said, it's that preconceived notion or the assumption or perception, if you will, that, hey, obviously he's going to have the best stuff. And if you actually think about it from a motor builder's standpoint, you do want to be upfront, but you're trying to sell your stuff. Right. So it would actually behoove you to be able to sell that stuff off on a regular basis if you can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you held everything back, there'd be no business, no profit.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I saw that same exact post.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yep.
Exactly.
I've been there. Yeah.
For sure. Going back to the fan, before you start getting into the seat, you talk about your grandpa's got a national championship before it was the Duffy. It sounds like he did pretty good in the enduro game. You say your dad did the enduros as well. Did they start to dabble in the sprint racing as well?
Yeah, but they were enduro focused.
Yeah.
My dad did some sprint racing back with like Howie Idelson and Cleveland and kind of in their era. Mm-hmm. But didn't really take it like too seriously. Yeah, it was the enduros running for an hour, kind of having no rules. Like could you last that hour? Was kind of their game.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I would think too, as far as that being an open class, being engine builders and that kind of stuff, it was probably very entertaining for them and interesting to be able to go play with that kind of stuff.
Right.
There was open stuff in the sprint racing as well. So is that kind of where that kind of bled over? So they're doing the endurance racing, but hey, we can also build for this sprint side too.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah, it did. And then it transitioned to once the open classes kind of died off, then it was like, okay, well, there's other classes, but we do have rules, and this is what we got to do.
Right.
So, yeah.
So you're at the track with these guys, watching races and being a part of it. When do you actually get in the seat for the first time? How old were you, and what were you driving?
So yeah, back in my day, there was no such thing as kid kart,
right?
Or a cadet for that matter. Jesus, I'm old. But yeah, I kind of started late. I was 10.
Okay.
When I started. And then my dad pretty much had a strict rule of like, okay, we are practicing for a full year until you hit your first club race. And then, that seemed to work out because my first race I finished third. And then every race after that was all first.
Oh, wow.
So then that's when the whole thing was like, oh, well, he's cheating, kind of thing.
Oh, wow. Maybe he actually put the time in,
Yeah. But it was usually like every Wednesday and Friday after school, the box van would be loaded up. He'd pick me up from school, and we'd go straight to the track.
Going to Adams every week?
Yeah.
Starting to pound laps.
And then on the Yamaha, or what were you driving?
Yeah, Yamaha.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think Perry was mentioning this on the podcast about back in the day when he ran junior. Yamahas and Comers, the C50s, ran together.
That's right. Yeah.
Which still baffles my mind.
Yeah.
And actually, it was surprising. It sounded like the Comer was the better of the two.
Depending on the track.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
At Bakersfield, it sounded like the I think you said that, right?
I think that track, yeah.
Yeah.
He was able to make the Comer work
Yeah,
up there.
because I was joking around. I'm like, there's no way that would be even. Like, you'd have to have a no-hole can, not for it to be even. But so you could run those two together. You start at 10. And actually, I want to hit on that point you said about practicing for a year. That seems to be a very, very common theme from a lot of our previous guests, where they'd be like,
that generation,
well, we ain't even touching a race
Yeah.
until you get down to an X lap time, and we spent X amount of time. Now there's the other end of the spectrum, right? Ryan Perry, they went out and got after it straight away, it sounded like. But there's a lot of that, just getting your craft, just being able to drive. We don't see much of that out here either. There's a lot of like, oh, we got a go-kart. Oh, there's a race this weekend, we should go race.
Unfortunately, it's kind of lost. I mean, yeah, we have the introduction of the bigger teams nowadays, and people with sizable budgets, and they're like, okay, cool. Well, we're going with this team. We're paying them this amount of money, and we should expect X results.
Right.
And a certain amount of that is true, like on the business world of it. But in motorsports, it's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
You do have to put in your time.
Yeah. There's still the nut behind the wheel.
Yeah, and work on the fitness aspect of it, and then once you move on from that, the next step is actually racecraft.
Yeah. From driving to racing, right? They're two different things.
Then once you hit those two hurdles, then it's the team and the equipment that then kind of pulls it all together. And then that's that next step of where you're in the front pack or you're struggling in the second pack.
Right,
you know?
right.
And then the first pack is actually eking away.
Yeah, exactly.
Frustratingly is so when you're doing your practice over that year or whatnot, you've got your dad and your grandpa did the enduro stuff. Are they coaching you along here at Adams, having not done as much of the sprint stuff, or how does that whole thing work?
It's so funny. My grandpa was like, once I started, he was just kind of like, doing the whole like grumpy grandfather kind of thing. Like, I'm over it,
Yeah.
starting him in racing, this is it. So it's kind of just me and my dad.
Okay.
But I mean, we had certain amount of drills of either just me going out there and just, running 20 laps at a time, or seeing how consistent I can be, or working on different sectors, of just like the big Monza one day, and then the little Monza one day, and braking and things like that.
So were you doing a full lap, or were you just cutting the course and going back, or?
It depends if there was other people out there.
Right. Yeah.
As I progressed, and if we were like practicing to go to like Santa Maria, we wouldn't obviously go to Santa Maria just for a test day. We would kind of make Santa Maria out of Adams.
Okay.
And we would run backwards in certain sections. We would run, the counterclockwise, run part of the track. Oh yeah.
That's neat.
That reminds me of a kid when we were at Pat's Acres, and it'd be pretty late, right? The sun's starting to go down. Most people are they're done, but there's nobody there.
Yeah.
And so, okay, we're going to work on, there wasn't a lot of cutting the track that you could do there, but you could, remember the video where you got the corner, the 1 and 2, and then 3, and then the hairpin.
Yeah.
Well, the hairpin you can actually cut across.
Okay.
And just go straight to what would be the second to last corner and then the final corner. So you could just work on turns 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Or 1, 2, 3, and then final corner, and just kind of make the
Circle back to it.
kind of oval thing. And I know that there was a time where I could not get my head out of my butt for the first corner. Like I kept arcing it in. And it's supposed to be like it's diamond deal. It's like, no, you need to diamond it. You need to too many shapes.
Yeah.
as a 12-year-old. But you could do stuff like that back then. Just the rules were, and actually, I know Troy does that currently. I mean, his bloody track, but
Yeah.
he's able to run drills and things like that. And with a place like Cal Speed, you think we'd be able to do more of that kinds of stuff. But with it being as busy as it is, that's never really a thing.
Right. Yeah.
So you end up practicing and testing essentially for a year before you get back in. You say your very first race, and it's a Yamaha Junior 1 was the class?
Yeah, Junior 1.
And that was where you could do Yamaha and or Comer at the time.
What chassis were you on?
I was just going to say.
So my first kart was a Margay,
Okay.
Panther X. So it had the hump in the back for the seat mounting position.
Okay. I've seen some pictures of that. Yeah.
And then after that, it was an older Emic. And then Ron and Linda then picked me up and then made me a sponsor driver.
Well, yeah.
So then after that, then they were just sending me chassis.
Oh,
So
wow.
You said the first race was a third. And then after that, it was all
First.
first.
Yeah.
Who are you racing with at this time?
Oh my gosh. I can't even remember. I mean, back in like the national races, I remember it was Patrick Long. Oh gosh. I think Edwards was there back in the day. Paul Edwards. Yeah.
So nobody of note, basically.
So you have that third, and then you have all these wins right after that. What was the change in the paddock from being this kid that hasn't raced to now he's dominating? Obviously, you said that
Literally,
people,
out of the gate.
Yeah, people said you're cheating, a few other things, but I mean, were you just miles ahead of everybody, or was it a race every time and you had to battle for the win?
Yeah, no, from what I can remember, oh man, I know my mom has all the VHS tapes.
Right, yeah.
But I think they were decent wins. Yeah,
Nice.
It wasn't like a lot of pressure per se.
And this is at 11-ish
Yeah.
years old? And
Yep.
in Junior 1.
Yeah.
And where you're like, I'm just going karting, or was there like a a drive to do cars or anything like that, or was it just about getting in the seat and playing when you first started?
Yeah, when I first started, it was just about karting.
Yeah.
That really wasn't on the radar back then of like, oh, wow, I want to be a next Formula One driver.
Right.
Nowadays, that's
Normal.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess really it wasn't until I went to Europe. I was like, okay, well, what's next? Kind of thing.
Were you watching before we get that far into your career, which maybe it was like 2 weeks? I don't know.
Yeah.
Won everything. Were you watching TV or anything like that? Were you a race fan? Like, what was driving you to do it other than obviously?
Oh yeah.
You're at the car shop.
I was up at 5 a.m. watching ESPN Formula One with Bob Varsha with my dad.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, back in the day.
Were you surprised that you killed it right out of the gate?
I mean, not really. It's just, I was, brought up very humble, so it wasn't like, yeah, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, we had this process, and then
You're going out there. You felt like you're going out there doing what you're supposed to do.
right,
Yeah.
and just executed it. I mean, yeah, there was one story where, and it was a learning experience, and my dad treated it very well. They were setting up the trophies early in the morning for a display, and I remember telling my dad, and he was talking to a customer at the time. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go down the hill and look at my trophy. And I didn't catch it at the point, but my dad's like, oh, man, why did he say that?
Right.
And yeah, I think I was leading and I threw the chain. I hit a curb,
Right.
and the back S's too hard and popped the chain and didn't win.
Right.
And then he's like, well, that's why you didn't win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
It was just assumed that you were going to win and this and that, and you had a bad day.
Yeah.
And then maybe kind of switching the script a little bit to be a little bit more thankful for, like, okay, you may be getting a lot of W's, but you got to cherish them because
Right.
that's not going to happen for forever.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe it did. You said it was a lot of wins. So as a junior one, how does it progress? What's year two look like? I mean, did you win the championship year one? I mean,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you kill it. Year two, what's the game plan there? Are we moving up to a junior two at this point? Are you old enough or big
I'm
enough?
trying to think. I think I did move up, to junior 2 class. And then so that was kind of an added element because they had junior sportsman, which is Yamaha, can, and then junior piston port. And so that was a different engine, different exhaust, different weight.
And this is right around 94, you said?
Yeah, 93, 94.
93, 94.
So, and then I had the sponsorship with Emic. So I had 2 chassis,
One for each class.
complete full setup. Yeah.
Nice.
And that's when it started to get a little more serious.
Did you have any support at the track from them, or was it just you and your dad, and you guys were in charge of the rides?
Yeah, my dad and I.
Okay.
I mean, there's obviously the phone calls with Linda and Ron.
Follow-ups, that kind of
yeah,
stuff?
of like, hey, how did this work? How did that work?
Yeah.
Because my teammate was Joey Hand, but he was in NorCal
yeah.
with completely different tires, and we were down in SoCal.
Mm-hmm.
So what worked for him didn't necessarily work for me.
Right.
Back down south. So
Man,
yeah.
that's so cool.
were you running just the club stuff, or are you starting to branch out? You say you talk about getting ready for Santa Maria and things like that.
Yeah.
You're starting to do the regional stuff right away.
I did, yeah. So it was all full club, and then Region 7 stuff. I don't think it was like the full series. I never really ran like the full series, and then dedicating all of our effort to that. So it was just kind of select races.
So you did most of the club or full club, but then select regional stuff.
Region 7 stuff,
and
yeah.
this is as a basically Emic factory pilot, if you will.
Yeah.
And you're doing that. And what's the thought process there if you're going to just do the track championships, and how come you didn't go full on regional at that point?
I don't know. I mean, I think my dad just kept that reserved because he just knew the money aspect of like, okay, well, there's added tires and there's this and travel. Right. Yeah, I think that's why he just kept it kind of local, I mean, because back then, it was sponsored by Emic, RLV, Horseman, like all the players.
Yeah. Everyone you want to be a part of, you had a hand in.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
You think part of that's from the kart shop itself, or is that just that flat out you guys had it figured out, so you as a driver, and obviously your dad turned to some wrenches there, you guys had it figured out so well, you killed it so well
that
they jumped on board?
Yeah, yeah, and I mean the name, and we've been around the sport a while. I mean that helped with the sponsorship. But he was instrumental in telling me, okay, well, if you want a sponsorship, you got to write them a letter, you got to call them.
I love it. Awesome.
And then that's when kind of got the wheels turned in for like marketing aspects of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was doing that at 12, 13.
Nice.
Yeah.
and racing nonstop at the local level and doing pretty well. I assume championships are still coming your way in that regard.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
You talk about when you go to do Europe and things like that, and I think you said in junior world championships. So you're 12, 13. Juniors don't last that long. So this is a fast track right here.
Yeah.
You're moving.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
How does this whole thing come about? And obviously. It's going pretty well locally, but we're going to go ahead and skip most of the regional and go to Europe. How does that work?
Gosh, I don't know. I think it was just the fact that in that year in '94, Horseman had a kind of a partnership with IAME, and they developed a dry clutch that allowed juniors to do a standing start at the European races. And, so they were full on supplying the clutches for all the engine manufacturers. And they had, an in with CRG. And they're like, hey, well, we have this kid from America, let's give him a shot. Let's whatever it takes to get him under the tent. And granted, I wasn't under the main tent. I was under the support tent at CRG.
You're still American.
But still American.
Right.
Move over to the side here,
yeah,
mate.
Yeah.
But holy cow, is it just... I mean, they shipped over a motor for me to test on, which was completely different. I mean... It might as well have been like an X30 kind of jump,
Right.
going from a Yamaha to an X30,
And that was what kind of motor was that?
It was called a Perilla PV92. So it was a long stroke, basically KPV kind of thing. 100cc piston port, but in, straight pipe, curved header kind of thing. But
versus the junior sportsman stuff you were running before.
Exactly, yeah. High stall clutch, can pipe, just night and day. Yeah. And every time I tested it at Adams, people are like, what is this kid doing? That's crazy, because I'm doing senior lap times out there.
Right. Which is the junior level
exactly
over there.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then going over there and just being introduced to, special tires and sticky track conditions and, literally running off the rubber line. As that rubber line developed on the track, you had to move your line off of it. Because if you didn't, you were just two-wheeling every corner.
Yeah.
And just in the level of competition, there I was good, but then there was also like 85 of me out there too.
Right.
From all different countries.
And it's separated by a few tents,
Yeah.
So
And you're in a European chassis for the first time at that point, right?
That too. Yeah.
So you do the EMIC thing, and now you're going over there and doing that for the first time.
Yeah.
So okay, I assume you were testing the Perilla.
Yep.
On the EMIC.
It started out, yes, and then Marvin and Gary from Horseman are like, this isn't the right way. We need to get this kid a CRG. So they found a CRG for me.
Well, I was going to say, it's not like they're hanging out all over the place at that time.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I mean, Mike Manning, was importing them back in the day. And they might have got one from him. I'm not sure. Anyways, so we got a CRG and then started doing that, developing. I think it was it was a 40 mil axle, which was, huge then.
Because it was 30s before that? And were they solid?
It was 30s, but then all the American stuff was an 1.25 inch. Super thick axle.
Oh,
wow. And were they solid or were they...
No, they were hollow.
They were hollow?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. They weren't full on rental status at that point.
Yeah.
No.
So you
it was night and day.
You end up getting in this thing, and we're talking about a month of Sundays ago, but do you remember that change from... You talk about how the engine's like, wow, this is a lot more.
Yeah.
But also that chassis change. Was there a dramatic difference that you can remember? Maybe not specifics, but just like, holy crap, this is different from what I'm used to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did. I mean, I could remember doing back-to-back runs and telling my dad that the CRG flexes more than the EMIC. And, that's kind of, hocus-pocus talk, like, what do you mean? Does it turn or not? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just everything was different. And then once I went over there, because we didn't go over there to test or anything like that. It was just like,
Right.
we're flying over there for the World Championships. That's it. Let's go.
Where was it at again?
In Ugento, Italy.
Okay.
So, yeah, the track of Pista Salatina.
Wow.
Yeah, on the very southern boot of Italy. So it was hot. It was humid. Yeah.
Currently, I know that Adams isn't known for big grip because it's very abrasive, whatnot. Was it that way back then, or could you build up some grip? Although we're also talking about a different tire,
Right.
so you got a little bit of time on the chassis and the engine, but you haven't even come close in the tire department yet.
No.
So you go over there, and obviously too, it's probably not Adams-esque this track you're at.
Right.
So everything's a bit quicker, mid to higher speeds.
Yeah.
What's that whole thing like?
Yeah, it was nuts. And prior to me going over there, there's a gentleman out of New York by the name of Tom Argy, and he would actually fly over and with a VHS camera walk around the pits and videotape the environment, because he knew it was so different from Europe to America.
Right.
And then he would sell these VHS tapes, and my dad got a hold of a couple. And I would just watch those every day after school.
And this is just the paddock, just the vibe and the
Paddock
feel?
and the racing. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's basically like YouTube, but
Yeah.
in a very archaic way. And I would just wear those tapes out, just watching them. The racecraft, how the drivers would lean forward down the straightaway to get out of the air and then push themselves back as they broke and then choke the airbox because they were rotary valve.
Yeah.
All in one fluid motion, Yeah, just watch those to death.
Yeah. It really added to your, at that point, 1.5, 2 years of experience behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Holy shnikes.
Well, I was going to say, so, I mean, you had a bunch of confidence here in the local stuff, and how was that plane ride over? Were you heart beating a little quick when you landed and all, going to the track, were pretty nervous?
Yeah, I mean, there was so much to take in. It was like, oh man, this is like the Olympics. I'm representing America and this and that. Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, yeah, that was the first time I had bruised ribs just from the sheer G-forces.
Right,
like that.
added grip.
And the first time I actually wore a rib brace, because back in the day, there's no grip whatsoever, so you didn't have to worry about that.
Right.
Yeah, all that aspect. Being introduced to like a Parc Fermé kind of setup, having like a mechanic that would just do all the nitty gritty stuff, and then having like, Tonini come over and look at my tires, and having like the factory boss there, asking me questions and stuff
That's
like that.
neat.
Yeah.
That sounds like such a cool experience. How did the on-track stuff go for you?
Good. So I don't know my exact heat race results, but I ended up missing the final by 2 spots.
Oh, wow.
My very first year, 2
Wow.
spots. And if I would have made that as an American to make the final, would have been huge. It would have been like I won kind
Right.
of thing. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you just barely miss it, but I would assume you're learning and learning and learning so much as you're doing it.
Oh yeah.
You get done. I missed it, but were you like, oh man, this sucks, or like, I can't even believe I made it this far?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
As
no.
a 13-year-old that you were at that time.
Yeah. It was like, oh man, yeah, this really hurts. So then the whole idea was like, okay, well, I think we have enough of a budget. Let's do it again the next year.
Got it.
And then the rules changed.
Oh.
So then they lowered the age of where juniors can turn into seniors. So I was like, oh man, all right, now I'm a senior now.
Oh, wow.
So what was that? Would it be 14? 15.
15.
So
Yeah.
when you did the first year, you were 14.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then like, oh, we're gonna go do it again. And you're like, no,
Yeah.
no, little Dodson.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then that was in France.
So you did go again,
Yes.
but we're
Yeah.
bumped up. And so we go before you go there, because we got a whole year to get there. Mm-hmm. Are you coming back here to race? Are you racing as a senior here as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're racing as a senior here as well. Is it? This is all about preparation for Europe, or do you have other agendas and going for championships or race wins or what have you?
It was like both. I mean, yeah, senior class was like KT 100 light and heavy kind of classes. So you had, RLV's kind of pipe of the month and the header that they Rod and Art made, but wasn't on the market yet, kind of
Right.
thing.
So you're doing test and tune still a little bit.
Yeah. So we're doing that, and then it's like, okay, well, then we'll do like the European kind of testing during the week, sort of thing.
Okay.
But it was all that kind of transitioned into like, okay, I'm a driver, but I'm also like a marketer for my dad's business, for the shop. So then that's when I was getting older, and then kind of transitioning of like, okay, well, this is our family business, so let's go out here, get good results, advertise, but then also encourage and help other people and bring them up.
Right. So you've got this kind of a three-pronged deal where you got your own deal driving and, it's test and tune and having these relationships you've got, whether it be Horseman, RLV, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And then you've got, hey, family biz, we still needed to sell engines and things like that. Mm-hmm. But then also you say you're kind of trying to bring new people in and try to help people out. Two questions before that I get into that. Did you hold on to that CRG, and did you stay on the European deal, or did you go back onto the EMIC when you came back?
Yeah, we stuck with EMIC for a little while longer. I'm trying to think what model that was.
That's got to be tough, unless you were able to carry some of your information over to EMIC and be like, guys, we got to make some changes.
This is what we got to do.
Yeah. Well, and then there was, I think it was the EMIC Monza, their kart that they developed for Adams. That's hence the name. But I think on that one, my dad actually modified the front end, and we put in like a leaf spring torsion bar setup because we were trying to make the front end stiffer and then have that adjustability.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, I think he used like the front torsion bars literally out of a Volkswagen Beetle, and we stacked them, and then we had the ability of turning them.
Oh, neat.
To, vertical or
change
flat.
The stiffness, yeah.
Is that one of the earliest torsion bars in the front there?
I don't
on
know.
an American?
Yeah, maybe on an
chassis?
American cart. Yeah. It was kind of wild.
Was that a little bit challenging going from the CRG back to the EMIC when you just said, "Hey, I know this thing's faster. I know this thing's."
It was, yeah, but I don't know. I think it's just back in the day. It was like, oh, well, if we're on a Yamaha, this is what we've got to run it on, sort of thing.
Gotcha.
And if it's any other motor, if it's a Perilla, Rotax, back when it was air-cooled Rotax, it belonged on a CRG or a Cali.
For what were you doing? You knew it worked.
Yeah.
And you guys were at home with it. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Going back to what you just mentioned there about that, again, I called it three-pronged, but the bringing people in. Now you're 15, and you've high school, and you got a pretty good idea of family business, and like, okay, I have a bigger part to play than just going and driving. What is that bringing new people in? Did you guys start having your own tent or team or anything like that? Did you start doing driver coaching or anything?
Yeah. Yep. So I didn't go to a normal a everyday high school. I was introduced into the independent study program. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't like, I wasn't like a troubled kid or anything like that, but this allowed me more flexibility to travel and to be at races.
Right.
So I did that all 4 years of high school.
Oh, gotcha.
Which was cool. It's kind of like pre-college basically for me.
Right.
Where I met with a teacher, got the assignments, and then was up to me to do it all at home. But yeah, so that was kind of like when I was getting older, like, okay, so this is how we make money, and this is what we need to do to generate money. So yeah, it turned into me driver coaching, doing like the whole like team tent, team pit space area. Mm-hmm. And then my dad kind of incorporating like, Joe Blow Carter, bring your cart, pit with us, we'll share information, axles, hubs, stuff like that.
Right.
Were you kind of dialing back your racing a little bit, or do you think it was? Yeah,
I was
getting tougher.
Yeah.
So the club stuff, maybe doing more of the coaching game. Are you still doing regional and things like that as we start getting ready for our second shot at Europe, or what was the
back
game
then?
plan?
Yeah, we backed off the regional stuff and just focused on club.
Gotcha.
And just money.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so you're like, we're going to use our budget towards that thing.
Yeah.
So that means we're going to use any racing we're doing is also going to, at the same time, generate income for us via the team, things like that. And you're doing this as a 15-year-old.
Correct.
Already
yeah.
kind of thinking about that.
Yeah.
So you go and you starting to do this team stuff, the coaching thing, and obviously people are going, dude, this is freaking David Dodson. He's going over here almost making finals in Europe and whatnot. How does the second shot at Europe go?
Oh gosh, disaster.
Oh, really?
No.
It just the talent, the level of talent in senior was just light years of what I was used to. And then so I wasn't with CRG the second year. So we ran for Gold Kart or Rigetti Rodolfi because that was the team that was within our budget
Gotcha.
that we could pay for a world championship.
Were you able to get one of those in advance as well, do the whole testing thing? Or is that kind of we're going to figure this out when we get there?
Yeah, I don't think I did. Maybe John's Kart Shop sent me one over. He was the importer back then.
John's Kart Shop?
Yeah.
It's called John's Kart Shop?
John's Kart Shop. Yeah. He's back east somewhere.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I did have a gold cart to test on. And again, my dad, ordered some rotary valves and we started playing with that. And then we went over there and then they had their new chassis. Mm-hmm. And I remember the design had the two outer rails that basically made a big loop around the seat.
Huh.
So that was one continuous rail. And then the inner rail where the engine bolts onto, that was another continuous rail. So it had 4 bearings, and then the 2 rails met underneath the seat, and those were welded together. I mean, super stiff waist.
Right.
Yeah, I think pushed like a dump truck.
Yeah.
I need a used Emic. Where's it at?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Wow.
So, yeah.
What was it? Different track that year, or was it the same facility? Or
Different track in France. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was it Laval? I think it was Laval. Yeah.
So you go from Italy to France for year 2, and you go from juniors to seniors.
Yeah.
Man,
Were they doing restrictors and stuff like that? Or were the engine packages relatively close?
For what? For Europe?
When you went from the juniors to the seniors in the Europe game.
It was, gosh, what was it? So the juniors were piston port, dry clutch, and then the seniors were all rotary valve.
And so it's a different game.
Yeah.
And this is the World Championships.
Yeah.
Where there's people that are household names, if you will.
Oh, there was, I think Alonso was running that year. There was Fisichella. He ran Formula One. Truly, obviously, was the man for Tony Kart.
right?
Yeah, there was big names there.
Did you have were you able to get any of the VHS tapes that year too going into it, or was that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yep. Yeah.
When you watched those, were you like, oh shit, like this isn't junior anymore?
No, yeah. I was just trying to soak it all in.
Yeah.
Of just, racecraft and how they pass so late.
Right.
Just everything.
How? So you said it was a rough weekend. The cart pushed a bunch.
Yeah.
Where'd you end up at? Do you remember?
Oh gosh, yeah, I didn't make the final, but it was. I think I missed making the final by like
Further
maybe,
back.
Yeah. 7-10 positions, something like that.
Man.
Yeah.
And it was a different chassis from what you were testing on, you said.
Yeah.
So
that was their world championship chassis kind of thing.
They might want to scrap that one. So that doesn't go so damn good. And this is the 96.
Six? Yeah.
So that's 96. You come back. Are you all fired up to try to do this again one more time?
No.
No, I would think not.
That was it. Yeah. We're like, okay, this needs a lot more money, a lot more time. Yeah. I mean, it's obviously the way to go for sure. Because every time I came back, it was like I gained 10 years of karting knowledge.
I bet.
And then I started to come back here. I'm like, oh my gosh, these tracks are
Right.
ridiculous.
Start looking at them differently.
Yeah.
How long was it? Just a week visit that you'd have just for the race week? Okay.
Yeah.
So when we talked to Don TU earlier this year, he was talking about he went and did the FIA stuff. He comes back and he goes, he just feels that much more precise, that much quicker, all that stuff.
We've heard that from even like the Arrive and Drive stuff with Sport Kart Grands.
Oh yeah,
when you go against that level of talent, you can't help but improve your game.
Oh yeah.
When you came back, now you did just say you're like back, club racing, these tracks again. But how did you feel you improved as a driver, and what do you think was the biggest part you carried back?
Oh man.
Racecraft.
Yeah, racecraft was part of it. Just looking at it at a totally different lens. looking at it as more like a job and not necessarily a hobby.
Oh, interesting.
And then being super precise of like, okay, this is qualifying, this is the lap I need to put in, and this is the pre-final, and this is the final, and learning when to push and when to not push. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things too. I look at just as I think about the fellow Masters drivers that I run with, and I immediately think of Matt Johnson. And the reason why I think of him is because I know he spent some time over in Europe as well. He's had a couple of shots at that, and his carrot is Kip Foster, and trying to beat that guy, and he's the man, right? But I think about his outlook and how he does it versus how I do it, and I'm pretty laid back, and I start to kind of turn things up a little bit with the big events. Whereas Matt wakes up on the chip, he's just but I start thinking about going, I think I might just be half-assing this thing all the time. The way these guys have that focus and that little extra something, it, like you said, it's a job, and I've always felt that way too. When you try to go hit these big events or try to do well, it's a job. I'm supposed to do my part and so on and so forth. But there's just that little something extra that I kind of pick out of a Matt or Enzo Deligny, as he's come back from Europe. You can kind of, that kid's grown up and changed a little bit. Dante Yu,
For sure.
Everybody who comes back from having that European experience. I mean, when I went and did Europe for Arrive and Drive, I did the same thing. And I just think it's that when you are pushed that hard just to hit baseline, right? Whereas before here, like, maybe, David's like, I'm winning all the races and you're driving at 90%, 95%, whatever. Whereas you go at 100% there, and you're like, golly, it's like I'm in the mid-packet. I can't do anything. And I'm at 100%. You push yourself beyond what you even thought you were even, capable of doing.
Oh, yeah. And it's just all your environment. I guess it'd be like if you're going to college and you get accepted to Harvard and you walk on the campus, you just automatically, just from osmosis, just feel more, smarter.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Versus going to, a party school or something, or like a job.
Just feeding off the environment.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why it's important you are who you hang out with, kind of thing.
Right. Right. For sure.
How was the CRG tent compared to the Rigetti tent?
Well, I mean,
and granted, you were kind of like the step kid on the CRG side, but still sounds like you had some good support.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and that was back in the day when so CRG had their race, their development team, which was called Dam Race. It stand for Dino Chiesa, obviously, and he's still in it. But Dino Armando was another main guy at CRG, and Massimo, and those are the three karting geniuses that got together and then developed their own works team within CRG.
Oh, gotcha.
Wow.
So if you had a dam race, it was like an AMG.
Okay.
So if you had a dam race, Cali Kart or CRG, you knew you were getting choice stuff.
Was dipped in holy water.
Exactly.
It was
Yeah.
the best. No
And it's
matter what.
and with Dino nowadays with Kart Republic and everything, he's still the man when it comes to chassis.
Wow.
And developing talent,
When you came back from your talking about I'm not really, I don't have the budget or to be able to go that next level. What was the game plan? And again, we're talking about mid-teens, doing the independent study thing. You talked about college and things like that. Do you start shifting to racing less and big picture stuff, or what was the thought process when you got back?
Yeah, so back then it was I kind of was helping my dad for a couple years in the business side of things. And then I was like, wow, crap, I'm getting old. So do I really try to pursue this racing deal and try to find money?
And by old, you mean about 18-ish?
Yeah, 19, 20, yeah. Or do I, and I was going to night school at a JC, at a community college. Or do I, go full in on a university and get a bachelor's in something and then enter the job, job market. I decided to go the college route.
Did you guys think about cars or anything like that? Or were you just like you're just
We
loving
did.
karting?
We did. Yeah, I did Skip Barber, the 3-day driving school thing.
Okay.
Learn how to shift kind of deal.
Yeah.
Heel toe.
When was that?
Gosh, I don't know. That
Was it before college or?
Yeah, during.
Oh,
Yep,
okay.
Yep. Yeah. And then it was the whole like, okay, well, we can do open wheel, but from what we've done our research, this is how much it's going to cost.
Right.
Yeah.
Or we can do the American open wheel or the closed wheel stock car truck stuff. And then this is how much it costs.
Right.
And back then,
You could do 20 races in that or 10 races in this.
exactly. Yeah. And back then, Troy Adams was doing the truck stuff. And, kind of just batting ideas off of him. And then Jesus was going to get into it as well.
Yeah.
And then so I was kind of like, well, maybe I can be like the third like teammate and we can share a truck kind of thing.
Right.
But
Kind of hedge some of the money a little bit.
yeah. But it never really panned out. So I did a couple test days in a truck, but nothing really like serious.
Yeah.
So
And for you, is again, you knew what, to do things at a high level or the right level. If you're going to spend X amount of money,
right.
it damn sure better be a good time.
Yeah.
But the point was to try to move up or do something if I'm going to do it at all.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so you're kind of like, all right, that or
yeah.
go to school.
Yeah.
And focus on making money
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah. So yeah, went to Cal State San Bernardino, got my degrees in marketing and graphic design.
So you were karting though. You were racing into your mid-teens, and you say you start working with your dad and things like that. Or maybe it was late teens. At what point do you just stop karting and you don't really do it anymore?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that was the time when my dad unfortunately passed away. And it was right before then. I was just finishing up college. And I'm like, yeah, so what's the next step? Like I'm doing these races and I'm, helping out customers and
So all the while you're doing the school thing, you're still Dodson engineering is still a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, you're still working there and doing
Yeah.
that deal. Okay.
still doing carburetors and engine assembly. My dad
Okay.
was doing all the machining stuff.
Okay.
And I was just assembly.
Okay.
And then breaking in motors on the dyno, all
Still
that.
doing the team stuff at the track and the whole bit? Mm-hmm. Oh, all right. So you basically transferred from driving straight over to just
Team manager.
team manager, driver
Yeah,
coach.
kind of ownership. Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. And then also, too, during my college years, I was an intern at SEMA for the SEMA show in Vegas.
Okay.
So I kind of got more involved in like cars and bigger motorsport stuff. I did I was a tire groover for a Goodyear at the core off-road races. And they wanted me to do like progress onto that. They're like, well, we can make you into a NASCAR Goodyear engineer and this and that. And I'm like, that's 36 weeks out of the year traveling. That doesn't sound like fun.
Gotcha. Right.
So,
And, I think we talked about it before we started recording earlier, but about, the amount of traveling karting takes and stuff like that. And you're already a younger guy thinking about that. You're like, I don't know if I want to travel that much.
right. Yeah.
You get and the SEMA thing was during college, or did that happen after?
During. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long did you do that job for?
3 years.
Oh, wow.
3
You were
years,
there a bit
yeah.
then. Okay.
So I was kind of off and on in their offices in, Diamond Bar, I think. And then spending all week in Vegas helping them with the show.
Yeah.
Meeting with vendors since I was an intern. Then I was also like volunteering in different booths.
Oh, wow.
Kind of getting that work experience
Right.
thing.
You're a busy little bee there
Oh, yeah.
during
Yeah.
the early 20s there. You transfer from doing the racing stuff and that kind of stuff, and now you're running the team.
Yeah.
And obviously getting the work experience and all this other kinds of stuff that has to do with motorsports. Like there's a lot of the other side of the fence or the business side of
Exactly.
motorsports. You don't drive, you don't do karting this entire time though. Like you were stupid good,
Yeah.
and you just go, nah.
Yeah.
I'm not really gonna race. I'll just do the team stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
Was the wind out of the sails that bad after Europe?
No, it wasn't. No, I've always had a passion for it. It just, I saw my role kind of change
Got it.
of being, okay, well, I don't want to focus all my, time and energy and money into doing my own thing and kind of let my dad, kind of swim or tread water doing his deal.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just you took responsibility on.
Yeah.
That was all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so I asked you that question, and one of the reasons why is because before we started recording, you said something about breaking your neck, and I thought for sure that was going to have something to do with you not getting in the seat, but it sounds like you were out of the seat prior and out of the seat after. So,
well, and that,
what was the deal with the neck?
Yeah,
the neck
yeah.
thing?
So that was a slight speed bump. Yeah.
Slight.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, you can't take your life for granted. You have to, not to be cliche, but live every day till its fullest and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So I was at my friend's nephew's birthday party, and they're Hispanic, so they have a piñata. And, I'm relatively experienced in tree climbing as a youth, not full on like ropes and carabiners and all that.
You're not
but,
doing Tarzan status. Yeah.
No.
Well, see, Derek, back in our day, because I'm realizing that Dave and I are very close to the same age, there was no internet. Believe it or not,
So
there was
you
a
couldn't
time.
see everyone busting their ass on a tree.
No,
essentially.
you didn't know there was repercussions to your actions, but you went out and played.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
And one of the best things to do, and I'm with you here, David, is go climb shit. And climbing trees was the business. So yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I would think everybody's basically got their merit badge in tree climb by the time they're 8,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or at least, like David, maybe trying out for it. So.
Yeah, right.
He was a late bloomer of the tree game. Yeah.
So we're hanging this piñata, and I'm kind of one of those people that's like, okay, let's get this thing going. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And we're trying to throw the rope over the branch, and just no success. So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'll climb the tree, drop the rope over. So I'm in the tree, and the branch I'm holding on to, my left hand, just snaps. So I lose my footing. I fall about 10 feet onto my head.
Man.
And
Oh wow.
instantly, lights out kind of thing. And the weirdest thing about this whole deal was I literally saw myself. It's the creepiest thing, but it was true, because I wouldn't have believed it if it didn't happen to me.
Right.
But I had an outer body experience. I saw myself lying there, and once I realized that, then that's when I came to.
Oh
Kind
wow.
of thing.
Whoa.
And then the whole like trauma and shock thing happened. Like, my dad's gonna be so mad at me. And so what do? I stand up, like
Oh, wow.
like an idiot. Like, you should never do that. And when I stood up, like, I was very like disoriented and swaying. And
Yeah.
luckily some of the guys at the party, grabbed me and sat me back down, and called 911 and all that stuff. But yeah, so to segue back to karting, it was the fact that, racing a kart and being in the seat all the time. And, back in Europe, they didn't have neck braces, or they didn't wear them.
Right.
So
They were doing the neck braces when I was a kid, though. I remember that.
yeah. So it was over here, but not
Yeah,
over there.
Exactly.
So when I started racing or practicing for Europe, the neck brace was off.
Right.
You look cooler. You can hear things,
Right. There's a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah. So
One of those being.
I developed strong neck muscles,
Right.
much like a football player. And the surgeons at Loma Linda are like, yeah, your muscles is what's holding your head up and your spinal cord together.
Holy crap.
You are one lucky little kid.
Yeah.
And how old were you?
Yeah, not even 20. I think 20. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
How
So-
was the recovery time on that?
So
Wait, yeah, and what'd you break?
I broke my C4, which is, high up on your neck. I think Christopher Reeves, he fell from a horse, Superman.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And he broke his C3, and obviously he's,
Right.
yeah.
in a wheelchair. So it was high up there. And once they did the MRI and they realized how severe it was, and it was kind of like, all hands on deck, this kid, we need to do something for him. So I had two options.
You damn near walked yourself in there, though.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
I know. Yeah. So the two options were the halo, which is the natural
Right.
way, just clamp your head to your shoulders, let it heal naturally for a year, or
Wow.
do surgery. And, they're asking me all this while I'm laying on the bed. I'm like, well, which is quicker? And they're like, well, surgery. But, there are complications if we happen to slip and we touch your spinal cord, you may wake up and not be able to feel your feet.
Wow.
So I was signing all these consent forms
Yeah.
of like,
That is heavy.
Okay.
You're just trying to put on a pinata, man.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
now
yeah.
you're like life-changing.
He's like, I just got out of the neck brace. I'm not going to put on a halo. He's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
What'd you end up deciding, though? Did you do the surgery?
oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Did
wow.
the surgery because it was the quickest.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, YOLO. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
You guys don't know my schedule. I got to travel. I got a lot of stuff to do here. We can't be having no
I
halo
got to group
business.
tires next week.
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You think that was the way to go in hindsight? Still?
Oh,
Yeah.
Look at me now. Yeah, so the surgery was like, it was an intense, like I think 12, 13 hours ordeal. And came out of it, obviously very swollen in the neck area, but they did an excellent job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
At Loma
awesome.
Linda.
Man.
So yeah, so now I have a titanium cool plate in there that it's a flat plate. It has 4 holes in it, so it actually flexes.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And it's not big enough to where it's detectable at TSA.
I was going to say, you getting
kinda-
stopped much? Yeah.
Kind of sucks. But yeah, so it's in there.
Wow.
And I just have a little scar right here somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Good. Jeez.
To be making that decision on the hospital bed, though.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's,
They sent in a priest. I'm like, what are you doing here?
yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Is that actually a thing? I mean, I know it's in the movies and whatnot.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I needed to talk to someone holier, yeah.
The guy was next door performing an exorcism. He heard someone's neck was broken. He's like, I got to see this.
Right.
Yeah. David's like, trust me, I've already been there, bro. I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Holy crap and
Yeah.
holy.
Yeah, that doesn't make you feel good, though. Seeing
So, but it was,
There's a lot of confidence in this group here.
yeah.
Oh, man.
But it's all, I mean, yeah. I mean, everyone that you talk to that's kind of worked with me in the past or anything, like, they always know that I'm very positive and, fun, serious and all that. But yeah, it's all about mindset. I went into that whole deal of like, holy crap, I'm lucky to be alive. So, let's think of the positives and move
Let it
on
ride.
from there. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you
Yeah.
certainly could have gone the other direction, like, oh my gosh, they worry about the big what if statement,
yeah.
right? Because it's the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And that's what you're signing.
Yeah.
But to your point, you get to the other side and everything's hunky dory.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
got a little piece of little silverware going on
Yeah.
in there. Wow, that is nuts. That is crazy. But and that has absolutely. In fact, it was karting that helped you out, and it had nothing to do with you not karting.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have that little bump in the road, and how much? Derek alluded to it, but what was the recoup time before you got right back into
It was like a
normal stuff?
Yeah, it was like a full 6-7 months of just home stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously I was eager to like start working out and walking and all that. But yeah, my mom was real good, just helping me recover and just doing like the baby steps, like can of soup kind of thing, curls.
Right.
And once the soft collar was able to come off, then it was doing neck exercises. Which you look at some of the F1 drivers now and their contraptions that they do
Right.
Yeah.
to strengthen their neck. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because that was the same year I think Dale had his accident.
2001.
So it was like before Han's devices, but like after my accident, that's when everything got kind of popularized.
Right.
Right.
Of like, oh, these neck injuries are
requirement, yeah.
serious.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
So like, yeah, my surgeons are like, we're not saying you can't ever drive again. We're just saying that if you drive in a, NASCAR car and you hit the wall, you may not be as lucky.
Right.
Like you have a stronger neck than probably 80% of America right now, but we can't guarantee you'll be that lucky again.
Yeah. And you're like, well, why didn't you throw a few more in there?
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's open.
Man.
Let's do it.
Yeah. What, do you get no superpowers out of this deal? Man, that's nuts. Shop's done. Not doing the shop anymore.
Yeah.
Had you thought about what you were gonna do yet, or it was like literally kind of seamless? Like, hey, I'm gonna do something else. I don't know what that something is yet.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I need to eat, obviously. So I
Right.
need to
What'd you go to school for?
marketing and graphic design.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, after college, or I did the whole Tony Kart mechanic thing, and then finished up college, and then moved to Indianapolis. But then that was in 2008 when the recession
Right.
Crash,
hit.
yeah.
And
why'd you do all that? You said the Tony Kart mechanic thing.
Well, because Lazane called me.
Okay, all right. So
I was Gustavo's mechanic.
gotcha. All right, now I got you.
And she's like, yeah, well, he's going to run for Tony Kart in Europe and in America with the Star Series. And Tony Kart's really particular on their mechanics. They, have to be, professional. And she goes, I think you can do it. I'm like, okay.
And you had he'd been with the shop already for a few years. You said kit carts, just
so we
starting out.
All right, so we worked on his kit cart chassis and his motors, and did that, for a couple years.
And then he was just getting into cadets. You said JICA.
JICA, yeah.
Yeah. So at that point he's going into juniors.
Yeah. So this was a couple years, yeah.
And he's going big time, right? They're going all in on trying to make him, and he didn't really amount to anything, but
right.
I'm kidding, obviously, yeah. But so you end up going, all right, yeah, well, I'll be his mechanic. Did the gravity of that really, did any of that make any sense at that time? Like, oh, this is going to end up being kind of a full-time gig, or was it like, oh, we'll do a couple races and see how it goes?
Yeah, initially it was like, okay, yeah, I could do a couple races, and then once I got there, and then what the whole purpose of the team was, at that time, Tony Kart was declining in sales, and Mr. Abatzi's like, okay, well, we need, America is a strong market. We need to sell some chassis, so we need a team that can get magazine covers and results and all that.
What year is that roughly?
Gosh, 2005, I think, 5 and 6.
Okay.
And so then Mr. Abatzi commissioned Cliff Quiela out of Phoenix.
Right.
To kind of put a team together. And he got Gustavo, Joel Miller, a couple other shifter kart guys. And so I was Gustavo's mechanic.
Wow.
And then so I got introduced into like the whole kind of OTK ecosystem atmosphere. Like,
Right.
okay, these are the axles. This is what they do. This is where we put the seat, all that stuff. And, very, very thorough, standard kind of stuff. Okay, this is, you don't deviate from this. You work on other aspects. And I took it all in. It wasn't like, oh, well, this is not what I would do, kind of thing.
Right.
I just listened to them.
Right. And your job is to help this kid move up the old ranks. That was the game plan.
Right. I mean, first and foremost, make sure nothing falls off.
Right.
That you can make the changes quick and efficiently. Do all that.
And so you're doing the Star Series and then kicking over to Europe and doing some of that stuff as well.
So I never went to Europe with Gustavo to be his mechanic. So I just focused on all U.S. stuff. Doing all the Star stuff. I don't think he ever ran WKA, but mainly the Star Series and then Florida Winter Tour.
Oh, gotcha.
Back when that was humongous.
Right. Yeah. No, it was. There was no SCUSA series or like that. It was just Florida Winter Tour at that time. Yeah.
Yep.
And so you're in the Indy move is linked up with this.
Yeah. So that was in the middle of everything. Finally finished college, thought, well, if I'm going to be in motorsport marketing, it's not going to be in California.
Right.
Granted, we have Auto Club Speedway, but it's no Indianapolis.
What?
I know. So my college mentor, one of my professors said, you need to move where it's at. And incidentally, he was teaching a course on motorsport marketing for Marion College in Indianapolis. And he's like, hey, if you want to like crash on my couch, get a feel for it, spend a couple weeks here, by all means.
Wow. Yeah.
So I did it,
What a good opportunity to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was on the
Try before you buy, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. So I was on the next flight down there.
Yeah.
Of course, obviously fell in love with the town. Everybody spoke race car, or Colts football.
Right.
Right.
Those are your two options.
Depending on the time of year. But unfortunately that was in '08 when the recession hit. So it was hard to find money for IndyCar sponsorship.
Right.
And two, teams weren't really looking to employ someone to look for that.
Right. Yeah. You went from a money's growing on trees, if you will, and there's that's the other thing too. There's more sports marketing and trying to get sponsorship and stuff like that. There's already people in that game. There's already people doing it, right? And you're trying to get into that game.
Yeah.
And now all the money dried up, but all those people are still trying to do it.
Right.
So that's a tough market.
It was, I mean, I learned relatively quickly. It was pretty cutthroat.
Yeah.
Like, I heard stories where people worked for years to get a sponsor to a track, and once they got there, then they were poached by another
Right.
team, and they were gone the next race.
Man.
And their sticker was on the other car.
Yeah. Gee.
Man, that is tough.
So I mean, and that kind of opened my eyes. At the same time, I was still obviously trying to make rent money and all that. So I was doing personal like driver branding for different kids, kind of growing up.
So you were using the graphic design
Yeah.
part of that?
Yep,
Oh,
yep.
okay. Cool.
So making sure, this is very early social media, but making sure all their social media was kind of on point, and giving them suggestions like, hey, yeah, you can party, but make sure that stuff doesn't show up online.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Make sure you have a logo and you have a kind of tagline. So
I
you're
remember I was super nervous about that because I was around 20 or 21 when I got my first big sponsor, and I remember I was always making sure I wasn't in any stupid photos or
Right.
tagged in anything stupid on Facebook. I'm like,
yeah,
it just takes one thing, and like I don't want to be associated with that.
Well,
you know?
and
right.
you're saying that when you were 20, so that's 6-ish years ago. It's way worse now.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Way worse.
Yeah.
So you're actually on the groundwork, if you will, of starting to do that kind of stuff. And again, 2008. So the other stuff's kind of. How long do you hang out in Indy before you kind of have to do something different? Or so you're in Indy doing this driver branding stuff.
Right. So I made the commitment, flew back to California, told my mom, grandparents, I'm like, yeah, this is where I need to live, kind of thing. Sorry, but I got to go.
Right.
And packed up my laptop in a suitcase, and I was over there.
Wow.
Got an apartment and was literally like probably 3 miles away from the Motor Speedway.
Man.
So right there in Speedway. And I mean, it's a small community. So as soon as I got into town, I started, having relationships with other drivers that live there, or, hey, so-and-so's coming into town. Yeah, he can crash on my place, So I was kind of like
Building the relationships.
yeah, it was
Yeah,
like an
for sure.
Airbnb for the incoming drivers from like the West Coast kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
wow. Nice.
For like meetings and stuff like that.
Right.
And I ended up working with Sarah Fisher's brand manager on her team, but it was small,
Yeah.
And then I learned that, racing, especially in IndyCar, it's seasonal. So you're employed, you're making money, traveling, and then boom, winter hits, and then you're unemployed.
Nothing for you to do.
Yeah. So I mean, that kind of opened my eyes, like, oh gosh, maybe this isn't the right.
Not as sustainable as you were hoping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, then I get a call from Justin Stefani at J3, and they were, headquartered in Pennsylvania, bigger karting team.
Yeah.
At the time, they were with Cosmic, and so they kind of heard of me when I was doing the Tony Kart USA thing.
When did that end, by the way?
Gosh.
It was only a couple of years with Gustavo?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
3 or 4 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because I went from Gustavo to Joel Miller,
Ah.
so a JICA to a ICA driver, and then if we did testing in Phoenix, it was a shifter driver or something. So
And then when you moved, that was when you it all kind of coincides. You're
Right.
You're not doing that. You move. You start doing the other stuff.
yep. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so they kind of heard that I was on the East Coast, and I'm like, yeah, sure. I need to eat and make rent money, so
Right.
Yeah.
I'll travel.
How long you been in Indy at that point?
4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were really making a go of it, but it was more challenging than you were
Right.
anticipating.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So then I did the winter tour with J3. Obviously, they wanted to kind of keep me in their roster of mechanics, because back in that day they were like and I mean they still are very professional and big, but they were like the RPG. They had
Gotcha.
the most
Okay.
drivers, on OTK stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
J3 Competition was the name, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so J3's Jim, John, and Justin.
Right.
Which then transitioned into Comp Kart.
Right.
So now they're, so then they were like, hey, this is really working out. We're also expanding. We're moving shops. Is there any interest you want to move to Erie, Pennsylvania and do like head up our race team coordination and then do some marketing for us? So, we make products and we can market that and run our online store.
Keep everything in-house.
And that's that Comp Kart thing that
Yeah.
they're trying to now, or we're doing our own brand, our own stuff.
Right.
There's a lot more need there than just a race team.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, there's nothing holding me back in Indy, so I moved.
Yeah, right.
So I went from West Coast, 100 degrees, to Midwest, to humidity,
Yeah.
to Northeast, just brutal cold.
Yeah. Getting a real feel for the seasons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
In the wrong direction, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
What year is that roughly? You go over there to Erie, you start going all in.
Oh, gosh. 2010 maybe?
Yeah?
Ish, yeah. Yeah.
2010, you go over there, and the Comp Kart thing's still pretty fledgling. Right?
Well, so they
or
were
are they still doing Cosmic, and
still
they're
doing
going
Cosmic.
to go do this other thing, or is that not even there
I mean,
yet?
that's always been in the back of their mind, was
Got
to do
it.
their own kart.
So they're preemptively snagging you, knowing that they're going to go this direction.
Yeah, yeah. And they wanted all their players in-house. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, and it was great. I mean, Erie is a fun little town. I honestly didn't get a chance to spend that much time in it because I was always traveling.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Spending 3 months out of the year in Florida.
I was going to say you'd sleep in Erie and then wake up somewhere else.
Pretty much, yeah.
Man.
But then, made sure that obviously, helped organize their shop, their race department, and made sure all the team chassis were ready to go for the next event. Make sure the truck was packed and the truck was driven out by a driver. And then, I either rode with him or I flew out. Kind of headed up the whole, I guess, mechanic side of things of overseeing what other mechanics are doing or jumping in when I needed to or vice versa.
The team manager of the operations, if you will, of that whole piece with the mechanics.
Yeah, I mean, Justin was the team manager per se. I was kind of like his main like assistant, if you will.
Got it.
/ was the mechanic for a driver. So
Do you prefer working on a driver or kind of overseeing?
Oh, that's a good question. I like a driver. Yeah, just because I can focus more attention.
Yeah.
I'm obviously I try to keep all eyes and ears around what's ever going on in the pit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of like to just focus on just one driver.
Have the one person instead of managing multiple scenarios.
Because I mean, most people don't understand. A mechanic is the overall blanket term, but I mean, you have so many different roles. You're a psychologist, you're a mentor, you're a mechanic. You make sure nothing falls off. You can change things quickly and efficiently, and do them the right way.
Yeah.
So it produces an X result at the end. There's not a variable like, oh, I put in an axle, but it wasn't centered. So was it the axle that made us fast, or was it the fact that it was offset?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Right.
There's a lot more to it than just turning a wrench.
Oh yeah. And then when you're on the grid, you're by yourself talking with the driver, so you're trying to get them focused and in the right headspace before they go on the track. Because they leave the tent with a certain kind of checklist of this is what needs to happen. Some drivers, they forget it in that short 20-minute 20 feet walk to the grid. And others, they'll remember it. So
yeah, everyone's a little different. You gotta be able to cater to them as best you can.
Right. Yeah. And then when you're on the grid too, I mean, this is when you get a chance to see other people's karts. So you're also playing spy.
Right. Yeah. How many times have you? And this is funny, just because I'm here talking with a mechanic, a very good one, and paying attention and stuff. How many times was it when you're on the grid and you're like, we are way different from everybody else right now, and got you a little worried?
Couple times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, a couple times where I knew we were either too high or too low on pressure. I'm like, oh man, this is kind of sketchy. But the weather's changing, kind of thing, or are we going out on the right axle, kind of thing. And then I would kind of like give the driver heads up, like, hey, you might have to hold on to this for a couple laps.
Right.
Another story, a Tony Kart story. At the Super Nats, I forget what year it was, when it was back in Sam Boyd, and Mr. Abazzi was over with Artigo, in his early prime, and all their Giacomo, all their choice Tony Kart people, and Artigo came in and he was, I don't know, I think 3 or 4 tenths off, and Rabazzi just kind of really laid into him in Italian. Next session, he was 3 cents quicker, and then I overheard him talk to, I think it was an OTK importer, in English, of that, the team is responsible for the chassis performance mid to the end of the race. The beginning of the race is all driver. They're the ones that has to make sure they get the tires up to temp, make sure that if it takes a while to get in, that they are fully responsible on that end. And obviously get through turn 1 and pick up positions, something like that, or defend.
It's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
And if you think about it too, because it does make a lot of sense when you're tuning a go-kart. If we start talking about different adjustments and changes, I mean, just working with you this last weekend, Dave, is that we're on a red speed, so an OTK, which now I know is right in your wheelhouse. All right? But it's you go, all right, what are we trying to get at? Well, you're not tuning the go-kart for lap 1.
Yeah.
You're not tuning for lap 2. Unless we're talking about green, white, checker. But even then, now it's really about the driver.
Yeah.
The green, white, checkered. But yeah, like you said, Rabassi's here going, it's our job to make sure you got the best piece possible once the thing is ready to rock. Getting it there, though, that's the job of the driver. And then being able to lose the least amount of time while in those tough conditions, make up the most amount of positions, all these other elements. That's it. I've never actually heard that said, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I mean, and if this is like a heat race or whatnot, tire management, to be quick, but also don't overheat the tires, and burn them off.
That's something actually that Jim Barry hit me up about when we were at the IKF Grand Nationals. We were doing 206, but it was how to properly prepare your tires when they're brand new. Because you can go out there and this is something I don't know if this is universal, so I'd be curious what other people think, and maybe yourself as well, but you put load in them, but not, slide them around. It helps them out on the long run. But then I come out here and I watch people, immediately side by, sliding them around to get that heat into them yesterday. And I'm like, they must not be worried about tire wear at all in the mains then, if we're just going to be burning them down right away. I mean, is that a thing that you've noticed as well, even with the softer or harder stuff?
There's theories of okay, if you overload the sidewalls, are you actually kind of breaking those fibers so they're not as stiff? So do you warm up the tires gently? Do you just intently skid to get the heat in, or you slide the cart sideways? Kind of thing. I think it just all depends on the tire, really. Right.
That's a good point. I hadn't even thought about the fibers in there. Like if you think about the actual construction of the tire, if it's a stiff sidewall and you want to break it down, perhaps get more side bite.
Correct.
So get after it. Kick its ass right out of the gate.
Yeah. If the sidewall fibers are like your muscles, tear them and try to rip them, or do you preserve them and not work them as hard?
Right.
Yeah.
So that could be a scenario where you get on a softer tire. You want to be a little more gentle, perhaps. You've already got side bite there. You don't need any more.
Right.
And maybe say on a stiffer deal like a blue or something like that. Maybe you get a more aggressive. Interesting. That's cool stuff.
Yeah.
Learn something every day.
Yeah.
So when you're doing the deal with J3, you go from at one time, at the shop doing all the tuning and the team stuff, whatnot, and also again, kind of your team, if you will, or part of it, to taking a little bit of time off from that aspect to getting right back into it again. When you're there doing that deal, you're like, well, this wasn't exactly the plan, but I'm kind of digging how this all worked. And was there a long-term game with that J3 deal?
Yeah, it's just funny how those things you get to working and focused, and then you're like, holy crap, 3 years went by,
right?
Kind of thing. So that's what literally happened. Was like, wow, I was so involved in the race team aspect of it, and going to races, and Justin, Jim, and John were kind of doing their thing of making sure that there was drivers. Mm-hmm. So making sure we had a purpose to go to the track, kind of thing. And then all these years went by, and then I was kind of like, oh crap. Well, do I? Well, what's the end game? Do I stay in it, karting the rest of my life? Do I live in Erie? Do we change the name to J3D?
Oh, I like that.
Kind of thing.
You are in marketing.
I'm joking.
You could make the logo right now.
Right. And then that, and obviously they were spending money on, they had the idea of coming out with their own chassis. They were spending money on that. So it was one of those things where, hey, Dave, they had to sit down with me, and they're like, you're our only, salaried employee. Mm-hmm. We can't afford you, kind of thing. And, I totally understood. I mean, because I was in it, living it every day. So I saw the money going in, coming out.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm like, no worries.
That was almost easier then, instead of you having to make a decision.
Yeah.
Because who knows how you could have him and hawed for another year or so, and then you're like, oh, now another year went by,
Right.
Yeah, a little convenient and coincidental. That at the same time you're thinking, I might want to do, I might need to do something else.
Yeah.
Yep. And they're about the same time going, we need to do something else. Not because they don't like you, you're not doing a good job, but because business, they need to free up some capital.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
so
David Dodson's expensive. He's very good.
Yeah, all the Starbucks he drinks every morning. We can't fund that.
They flip around and like, this is the line item right here. This is the problem. It's not payroll. Starbucks.
It's gonna have to be 7-Eleven from now on.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah, can't do that.
Draws
your
the line.
bags.
So right about the same time you guys have this conversation, what year is that, and then what do you go and do from there?
Gosh, yeah, that was like right after they introduced CompKart. Mm-hmm. So when was that? 2017.
I was gonna say 16 or 17.
Yeah,
it's been a handful of years, I think.
Yeah. And at that time, I things were happening in my personal life. I met a girl in Erie, and things were kind of progressing there. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is a nice little segue, out of karting, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So a couple years, I kind of did my own thing. Kind of migrated from Erie to Tucson, Arizona, where she had family, and we got a place together. And then things didn't work out. So we ended it, in a friendly manner, and ended up back in California.
California's a lot closer in Erie at this point.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah.
It was a coin flip, really.
Yeah.
So you come back in, and then let's see if we carry the one here. You're doing real estate here pretty quick at that point.
Yeah.
When you make that transition, right?
So it's one of those things where everything kind of happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. And at that time, that's when my family kind of needed me the most. So my grandparents had their house and the big plot of land where the shop was at, and where my grandfather had all of his cars and heavy equipment, and where he tinkered, because he still tinkers at 94 every day on cars or equipment.
Yeah. That generation of people from that area, they're guys who just can't stop.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Hands on, they want to keep doing something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they were getting hounded by commercial real estate developers that wanted that chunk of land in San Bernardino. And at the time I didn't have my California license yet, but I was in the process of getting it. So then I kind of helped them navigate the acquisition of the property, made sure they had the right terms, and then it was a full-on year process of moving 17 cars, 2 tractor trailer rigs full of equipment, old karting stuff, personal household stuff,
And I'm hearing moving, not selling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because my grandpa wants to keep it all.
Yeah. Everything's got a purpose, right?
It does. It does. Yeah. He's definitely old school.
It's going to be the Dodson Museum is what it's going to be.
Oh, gosh,
There you go.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
Not too bad. So you end up getting over here, kind of switching gears, but still staying back here in California, but still being involved in karting at kind of arm's length. Because now, like we talked about, you've got your 9 to 5 that you're doing still currently.
Yep.
But we still see out here at the track, you're still doing some tuning stuff, making that transition to full-time to part-time. And I like you actually mentioned in the questions, we go, what's your occupation? It was real estate agent / part-time cart cleaner.
Yeah.
What is your favorite part of the mechanic / tuning thing that keeps you coming back to being a part of it? And as an added piece to that, how come you don't get back in the seat?
Good question. It's one of those love-hate things. Like, I've been in it so long that you love it, and then you get to a point where it gets old and it drags on, and then you're like, oh, I need to leave and get out. Then you're out of it, and then you're like, oh man, there's just something missing, you know?
You feel like you should be doing something almost.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love the competition part of it. So that's what I miss. So, working with a driver, and are they going for pole position? Are they going for the race win? And being, kind of that guy that had his hands on that equipment that won the race or got the fastest time,
Right.
That's what's cool.
Do you lately the last couple of events, I know it's been Tom Neal's a Masters driver you've been working with. When we talk about that mechanicking stuff or tuning and all the different things, is there a level driver that you like? Is it Masters, a junior? Do you like doing more coaching, less coaching? If you were to pick I'd like to go do this. And
Ideal scenario.
Still do real estate stuff, right? So we're not encroaching on that. But if you could do it, and this is what I would really like to be able to do as a tuner.
That's another good question. There's no really if I like juniors more than seniors kind of thing, because they all have their pluses and minuses. And same with experienced and non-experienced. Non-experienced is kind of fun because you can actually kind of mold them in a way. Experienced drivers, they know kind of how the game works, so it's a little bit easier on the mechanic side of things. So I don't know. They just all have their pluses and minuses. And to go back of why I'm not in a kart full time kind of thing. I hopped in a comp kart back when we were developing the chassis. And it was fun. I had the butterflies going. But I know how much it costs.
Right.
And it's a big chunk of money if I'm going to do it the right way.
Right.
Right. And that's the thing is I don't want to half-ass it,
Yeah. If you were to go back in and say, money's no option, what would be the level or the thing that you would like to A, race, and B, series or event you would want to run?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. Right now you have 3 choices, basically: IAME, Vortex, or Rotax, right? And all 3 different motor manufacturers kind of have their own pluses and minuses too. As an individual, it depends if I'm backed by a factory team or not, of kind of what races I go to. If I'm more individual kind of deal, I'll lean more towards the Rotax and try to make the world finals kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
But if I'm backed behind a team, definitely do challenge or SCUSA stuff.
Is 125 your deal or the 100 TC?
Man, I don't know. I mean,
When you did the test on the comp car, what engine was it? Was it a Rotax?
Rotax.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I love how he's like, yeah, if I'm on my own, I'll do Rotax, try to make the World Finals. Challenge America's got to have the team backing. But it makes sense with the package you're working with, right? When it's
Yeah.
Rotax, definitely
Yeah.
a little bit more user friendly and
Right.
apply your efforts elsewhere.
Well, and
Yeah.
again, have the World Finals thing at the end.
That's a nice
Yeah.
carrot.
The reality is, when you sell all these homes and or win the lottery, you're going to have Dodson Engineering squared, and the new race team, where you can just go out there and do all the races you want. It's going to be the best.
Or J3D West Coast.
I
There you
like
go.
that J3D.
I don't know. Yeah. If I win the lotto, I mean, I know it's impossible because land in California is so scarce,
Yeah.
especially if you want land to build a track.
Right.
But it's like what Rocky Moran Jr. and Senior did. Like, they always wanted a track, so they built a track.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be cool to have your own track.
Yeah.
So somewhere you can go out and play every single day.
Not to do anything, just that. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to host any races or
Right.
anything like. Nah,
No, just to go burn some laps.
we don't need no ROI. It's just
Yeah.
going to be about going out there and playing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who's got the track record? David does.
Yeah.
He's the only one
I
who drives
do.
it.
It's funny though. So I had hit you up a few weeks ago during the shootout here about being on the show and stuff, and you had mentioned the same thing you did right now. You're like, yeah, every time I kind of get out, someone pulls me back in. I said, it's as simple as still being someone's having your phone number in someone's phone. Like, as long as you're in that phone, people are going to reach out to you for one reason or another.
Yep.
Do you like doing the club race stuff, or would you rather go do something more competitive as far as tuning goes? I know we kind of just touched on that a little bit as far as what driver, but do you, when you're at a club race, you're like, I'd rather be at a big event tuning, or does it
Yeah.
really matter?
I mean, I love the big events, just because the whole,
What's at stake?
well, yeah, what's at stake and just the prestige of it kind of weeds out people that are made for it and are not.
Yeah.
From drivers and mechanics too. I mean, yeah, not to dwell back in the past, but like, mechanics wouldn't know what to do if they had a parc fermé nowadays, where you actually had to mount tires in a controlled environment and then put them on and off the cart every single time the cart got off the track, and took the tank out and all that. Because, back in those days when they did have parc fermés, like, some mechanics would forget to tighten the gas tank, or you'd see the driver fiddling on the parade lap trying to put the tank back in, or the fuel line wasn't screwed on properly.
The attention to detail is a
Yeah.
requirement.
Yeah. It was, and you had to be on top of your game. Now it's a little more relaxed, but then again, there's different elements involved now. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, I'd love to do the bigger races for sure.
Yeah.
But now that I've kind of been in real estate for a couple of years, I kind of know how things go and progress in a transaction. So I'm a little more comfortable and confident going from real estate to karting, at least on some weekends.
Right.
If I'm not showing houses, or if I don't have a deal right in the middle of escrow, then I know, okay, I can
You can focus.
I can focus and I can, have fun on the weekend.
Right.
Or, do a Spartan race, or, do something.
That was what we were just talking about Paul Bonilla with, and he goes, if I'm lucky, maybe I squeeze in a weekend of karting, But he goes, there's been time, and there's been times coming out here. He's like, I gotta go leave now. They're, clients call me or whatever.
Yeah.
So no, I think that's a huge part of allowing yourself to, if you're gonna be here, you allow it to be your focus.
Yeah.
I think it's only fair to yourself too at that point.
Yeah, and I've spoke to some other realtors that have been in the game for years, and there is such thing as a burnout even in real estate, that you go in so hard at the beginning that you get burned out, just at the point where you're kind of getting everything, the momentum's going, and I know what that's like, kind of just being in motorsports.
For sure.
So I'm like, yeah, well, that's why you kind of need that little balance,
Right.
And
that's where, especially if karting in this particular scenario is it's about that fun aspect. That's it's a bit of event or release or whatever,
Right.
of doing something you really enjoy doing.
Yeah, and the people you meet at the track. I mean, I've met more millionaires and billionaires at the kart track than I have in real life or outside of the paddock, you know. And you couldn't get close to those people,
Right.
you know, in the grocery store or anything, you know.
We've said that multiple times with other things, that all different walks of life all end up coming to the kart track at some point.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, or like you have people from all different areas and levels and whatnot, and because everybody thinks they can drive,
Right. Yeah.
so you get a chance to come out here and rub elbows and find out maybe not.
Yeah.
One of the last things I wanted to ask you was moving forward, you doing the real estate thing, kind of getting into that groove. What you got going on? What do you got going on for the next forward years? Like, I'm always kind of thinking about what's next. What am I going to do? And at least these days, I'm thinking about it more than I used to, if I'm honest. But do you have like you know what? I wouldn't mind doing this as a little side project, or this as a side project. And you just mentioned the Spartan race stuff, and getting in, doing that a little bit more, and having these different things that are out there. Now that you've kind of got that new game, right? The real estate. I say new. It's been 3 years, but like you said, this is what's going to allow me to do other stuff. Is there anything kind of on the old bucket list, if you will, or a thing like, you know, I definitely want to try to pull this off here now that I got the opportunity?
Yeah, well, if we're talking like bucket list items, I mean, my girlfriend and I checked off 2 of them, one in COVID or last year and then one this year. So we skydived with Matt Jaskell in Vegas.
Oh, man.
Oh, nice.
Last December.
That'd be the guy to do it with, too.
Oh, yeah. That was awesome. And then we completed a 100-mile ultra marathon in May. So we checked off those 2.
What is a 100-mile ultra marathon? Now, a marathon, correct me if I'm wrong, standard is like 26 point something miles?
26.2. Yep.
26.2 miles. So
usually
I
on
feel like there's a
road.
hell of a lot more than ultra. That's like
Yeah.
crazy. Damn near 4 times.
So usually, ultras is considered anything more than 26.2.
Okay.
And you decided to go with 100 instead of 27?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I worked my way up.
Okay.
So, so after meeting my girlfriend when I moved back to California, she was an avid like trail runner, just being up in the mountains and just running, hiking trails. I mean, not running 100% of the time, but
Right.
speed hiking, running, walking kind of thing.
Yeah. Minimum pace.
Yeah, yeah. And longer distances. So I drank the Kool-Aid on that one, and she got me into it, and I'm like, this is awesome. So we did a trail marathon, and then it progressed into 50K, and then that 50K progressed into 50 miles, and that 50 miles produced 100K, and then finally the top was 100 miles. Now, granted, there are longer distances, but those races usually have to qualify.
Right.
And they have to accept you, because there's the Moab 250, and that's 250 miles on your feet in the Moab Desert, and I mean Goggins has done that one. It's brutal.
How long does it take you to do this ultra marathon?
So we completed it, her and I, and we did it in 35 hours.
God.
The cutoff was 36.
Oh, wow.
Man.
And I assume you're braking in the middle of this thing, or like how's that work?
So there's aid stations.
Okay.
Where it's a little station that is maintained by volunteers, and they have more water, so you can replenish your hydro pack. There's medication, there's medics, there's real food, there's packaged food that you just grab and go. And it's up to you if you want to spend some time there and relax, or if you just want to grab some stuff and then go back at it.
Keep going.
Yeah.
So we're not sleeping?
No. Yeah.
Wow, bro.
So talk about pushing your body. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know I could stay up 35 hours. Actually, I mean, longer than that, because we finished the race.
Right.
We did our, pictures at the end, called our parents thing in the car, and then went back to the hotel. And then I was kind of on food duty. Like, I was looking for, I wanted a steak.
Oh, yeah.
Before I went, into hibernation mode kind of thing.
Right.
So I was, after the shower and all that, doing that thing. But, I think that ended up being like a 40-hour day or something.
I believe it.
Jesus.
I mean, I
Yeah.
know when I went and did, you talk about wanting a steak or whatever. I remember at Sonoma after, or not Sonoma, excuse me. It was actually in Phoenix. We were at the challenge race, and I was just starting to do 100cc and Rock GP, 2 classes. And kudos to Tim Meyer, because the fact that he's able to pull that off and like look fresh is like Jesus criminy. Because I got done and I'm like, I want all the food, because I'm tired, but I can't shut my brain off. Like,
Right.
I'm still rolling.
Yeah.
And
You got to let yourself come down a little bit for sure.
it took a couple hours, about an hour of eating and another hour of the food coma hit me, and it was like once it hit, it's like I slept real good.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it was
But
crazy.
it was an intense race. I mean, it's every bit as mental as it is physical. Being on your feet in the middle of the night, going on some of these trails that are you just have your headlamp
Right.
shining light on the ground, and and it's pitch black all around
Blair
you.
Witch Project status.
Kind of, yeah. And the thoughts that are going through your mind and what's hurting currently on your body. And like, oh, my right knee hurts, and oh no, that's fine. No, now my left knee hurts, and like, oh man, what's that pain? Is this going to be the end of it for me, kind of thing?
Right.
So obviously, you finished it. You were stoked with that by itself, but were you kind of let down? Did you let yourself down on any aspects of like, I could have done that better, or I'm surprised my knee's hurting or whatever?
You mean like as far as performance wise?
Yeah. Was there anything like that? Should
Bloody
be a thing?
35 hours, mate.
Yeah.
Just lucky to be getting to the end.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really didn't come into like the next day when I woke up, and obviously being a racer, like you check the resuls
Absolutely.
the
Right.
next day.
Yeah.
So I pulled up my phone and I was looking, and when I realized that there was I think there was like 150 people that signed up for the 100-mile distance, and there was a good 80, 90 people that didn't finish.
Wow.
And the fact that they had that much dropout and we finished under the time limit was just, amazing.
That's the win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then so now, like when we go out and do like a run on the weekend, her and I, we're like, Jesus, we didn't think about it at the time, but you're like, when you start off, and it was like, I think the start line was, or start gun was like at 4 a.m. And you're like, wow, you're going to run for 100 miles.
Right.
I don't know how I did it now.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I think that you talk about the mental aspect, right? And it's getting over the hump.
Yeah.
It's and how many humps did you have to get over? Because
Right.
I would think that, firstly, for you to even sign up for something like that means you're a little, anyways.
Yeah,
a little out there.
we like to say it's the type 2 kind of fun, And that's like, there's some people at the track can attest to this, but they'll see me like push a go-kart and they'll see me like full on sprint through the pit if I have the right kart stand that can
Right.
take my speed.
Right. Yeah.
And they're like, what the hell is he doing? And I'm like, I'm just getting exercise, and plus you can get to the tent quicker.
Yeah.
So if you do got to make an axle change or change an axle and a motor and tires, just allows you
Make
more
it
time.
happen. Yeah.
And
For sure.
there is that time where you needed that extra 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Man. So aside from doing these crazy 100-mile deals, and you talk about, the skydiving, the other bucket list stuff, are we in cruise control right now? Or doing the real estate thing, do a little bit of wrenching on the side, or got any other big plans coming up?
Yeah. So October will be my kind of hell month. So I'm doing a Spartan trifecta. Knock on wood. Hopefully it's still a go.
Right.
Being that this COVID thing is still going on, but it's in Big Bear, and it's a trifecta weekend they call it. So there's 3 different distances in a span of 2 days. There's the sprint, which is 3 miles and I think 15 obstacles. There's the super, that is 10 miles, 20-ish obstacles. And then there's the beast, which is a little over 13 miles and 40-something obstacles. And this is at Snow Summit in Big Bear. So we're literally running up the ski slope
Yeah.
while doing obstacles and all that stuff.
I think my girlfriend did the super the last time they did it.
Nice.
Last year, yeah. So she's a big Spartan runner. I think she's going to try to do the super again this year. But
Cool.
she's like, you can go do sprint with me. I'm like, no, I'm all right. I'll pick you up when you're done.
Yeah.
It's addicting. It's a workout. And it's the Spartan stuff is a cross between like a CrossFit workout
That's
and
what it
then
seems like.
an endurance kind of run
Yeah.
thing too.
Man.
Yeah.
Nope. That's
So
a
I have
hard
that,
no.
and then I have I'm doing the half marathon in downtown Riverside at the Mission Inn. I think the weekend before that.
Oh, wow.
So and I got a couple realtor
Just a
buddy.
little tune-up.
Yeah.
A little tune-up for that other field.
Well, I mean, and it's not like I'm going out there to like win by any means, because like if you saw some of the pros that are sponsored that are doing these ultra marathons, they go out there with just a water bottle, short shorts, and a t-shirt, and that's it. And we got kind of a camelback backpack thing, and full of like caffeine goos and gels, and
Right.
we're prepped, but they just go out there just
Their
bare.
body is so ready for it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Craziness.
Jeez.
And their pace times, I think, gosh, I'm trying to remember. I think the winner's pace in the 100-miler was like a 9-minute, I think, a 9-minute mile or a 10-minute mile, something
Wow.
like that.
Wow.
Maybe even faster. I think it was even faster than that.
That's dumb.
Because we were,
Man.
what is it? We were trying to keep a 4-mile-an-hour pace in our thing, because I know we had to like meet that to beat the cutoff.
Right.
So ours was like 15-minute miles kind of thing.
Okay.
And that's hiking, that's traversing, going downhill, flats, all that.
Man.
Yeah.
That's so
Just
crazy,
thinking
dude.
about
Nuts.
that, I'm
I know.
tired now. Just thinking about it. Unbelievable.
And we got the workout through osmosis right now.
Yeah, exactly.
We appreciate that.
Yeah. David's over here talking about how like you go to Harvard, you feel smarter. I feel like I'm in better shape just being in the same room as David
Yeah.
right now. So that's I'm gonna live vicariously, get all my workout through you.
Nice.
David, this has been a lot of fun. I mean, I got a chance to work with you for the first time this weekend, just as a test and tune kind of scenario. I had known of you and knew that you knew a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And people had said, dude, he was pretty good back in the day. I'd be excited to see what happens. You get back in the seat for fun at some point. And I'd love to share the track with you at
I would
some
love
point
to see you
too.
just do a club race for fun, man.
Yeah,
Just jump in
that'd
100.
be great.
That'd be so
phenomenal.
cool.
So someone's going to have to get Dodson in the seat here. We've got to make it
gosh.
happen. David, thanks again for hanging out with us here for the afternoon and chatting with us. And hopefully I get a chance to hang out with you a few more times before the end of the year. And yeah, this has been a lot of fun. We really appreciate you having on.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Pleasure, guys.
Thanks, bud.
It's cool.